These are the 3D Viewmaster pictures, Princess Margaret's wedding. It is with the greatest pleasure that Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, announces the betrothal of her beloved daughter, the Princess Margaret, to Mr. Anthony Charles Robert Armstrong-Jones, son of Mr. R.O.L. Armstrong-Jones, Q.C., and the Countess of Ross, to which union the Queen has gladly given her consent. This notice in the court circular at the end of February 1960 was the official announcement of the engagement of Princess Margaret, who was married in Westminster Abbey on May 6, 1960, the first princess of Great Britain to wed a commoner for hundreds of years. Princess Margaret was born on August 21, 1930 at Glamis Castle, the ancestral home of the Earl and Countess of Strathmore, her maternal grandparents, and on October 30, 1930, she was baptized by the Archbishop of Canterbury at Buckingham Palace in the name of Margaret Rose. 4 years younger than her sister, the present Queen, her first public appearance at a state function was at the Silver Jubilee of her grandfather King George V in 1935. In 1937, she attended the coronation of her father, King George VI, walking with her sister in front of Queen Mary, wearing a purple velvet train and a princess coronet. But after that, Queen Elizabeth was determined that 2 children should have as normal and quiet a childhood as possible, and there were no more public ceremonies. When the princess was just 9 years old, war was declared on Germany, but the king and queen decided not to send their children abroad, so they spent most of the war years at Windsor, where they continued their lessons under English and French governesses. Princess Elizabeth was able to take her share of the war effort and joined the ATS, but Princess Margaret was too young. However, 1947, she went with her parents and Princess Elizabeth on the royal tour of Southern Africa, and later that year she was chief bridesmaid at her sister's wedding in Westminster Abbey. As she grew older, she has followed the best royal traditions by giving her support to many worthy causes. She is Commandant-in-Chief of the Cadets of St. John's Ambulance League, President of the Young Contingent of the Victoria League, which aims at mutual help and friendship between all peoples of the Commonwealth. She also holds high office in the Girl Guides, the Dockland settlements for people in the poorest parts of London, the National Society for the Protection of Children Against Cruelty, and Dr. Bernardo's Homes, as well as being Colonel-in-Chief of several famous regiments. But her vivacity and quickness of wit have led her to many gay parties as well, and she has a wide circle of friends. She has also taken her full part in royal tours overseas. She has been twice to the West Indies, where she has chosen to spend her honeymoon. In 1958, she went to Canada for the centenary celebrations of British Columbia and has also been to the East African colonies. She represented the Queen at the inaugural ceremony of Queen Juliana and has traveled in many European countries. Viewmaster Reel 1, Picture 1. The decorations in Parliament Square. By May 5th, London's decorations were complete. In Parliament Square and along the Mall were tall white flagstaffs, from which were hung garlands and massed clusters of spring flowers. The public gardens were bedded out with fine red tulips, and the window boxes of the government offices were also gay with blossom. Picture 2. Crowds in the Mall on the eve of the wedding. White banners with golden tassels and bearing a golden monogram M.A. on a red Tudor rose were placed along the Mall and on the Horse Guards Parade, and at a point where the road from Clarence House joins the Mall, there was erected a huge arch of pink and red roses, a delicate compliment to Princess Margaret Rose. Picture 3. The Royal Yacht, Britannia and Tower Bridge. Londoners and the many visitors to the capital flocked to admire the decorations on the eve of the wedding, and long before nightfall many of them took up their positions along the route, prepared to camp out all night to be certain of getting a good view the next day. Numerous people also visited the Pool of London, where the royal yacht Britannia lay ready for the honeymoon trip. Picture 4. May 6th, 1960. Troops start lining the royal route. On May 6th, the troops started early to line the route from Buckingham Palace to the Abbey. Picture 5. The Queen leaves Buckingham Palace. The Queen drove to the Abbey in the state coach, accompanied by Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and the Prince of Wales wearing a kilt of royal Stuart tartan. Picture 6. And is cheered at Horse Guards Parade. The crowds cheered as the royal family drove across Horse Guards Parade. The grey buildings of the Admiralty in the background, to the specially erected awnings leading to the west door of Westminster Abbey. Picture 7. Royal guests arrive at Westminster Abbey. Here, the ceremonial for the assembly of the guests was as follows. First, the gentlemen ushers, members of foreign royal families and other members of the British royal family. Second, the Queen and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, with the Prince of Wales, the Queen of Denmark, and close members of the royal family, then the clergy. Viewmaster Reel 2, Picture 8. The bride's procession passes the Admiralty. While the guests were being seated in the Abbey, Princess Margaret's procession was approaching amid the tumultuous welcome of the crowd, a fairy tale princess in her beautifully simple white organza wedding dress, driving in the glass coach with the Duke of Edinburgh, who was to give her away. Picture 9. Arrival of Princess Margaret and the Duke of Edinburgh. There was no end to the cheers as Princess Margaret was entering the Abbey. Westminster Abbey, or more fully the Collegiate Church of St. Peter in Westminster, was founded in 1065 by St. Edward the Confessor and has been the church where most of the British sovereigns have been crowned and many royal marriages solemnized. Picture 10. The marriage service. Gathered in the sanctuary this day were the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Bishop of London, the Dean of Westminster, as well as other clergy in their beautiful robes. The scarlet cope of the Dean being that worn at the coronation of Charles II exactly 300 years ago. On the altar were the gold cross and candlesticks and some of the abbey's 17th century plate, while on either side were high spires of lilies, irises, roses, and other spring flowers. Princess Margaret, on the arm of the Duke of Edinburgh, walked slowly up the aisle, followed by her 8 little bridesmaids. To the foot of the sanctuary were Mr. Armstrong-Jones and his best man, Dr. Roger Gilliard, were waiting. Then the Dean of Westminster began the service. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here in the sight of God and in the face of this congregation to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony. Words which have begun the marriage ceremony for members of the Church of England all over the world. Picture 11. Outside, thousands follow the service by TV monitors. Outside, the waiting crowds were able to follow the service by loudspeakers and television sets which had been installed at certain places along the route, while in millions of homes, families and their friends were seeing for the first time a royal wedding. So the ceremony proceeded until the Archbishop blessed them and pronounced that they be man and wife together. The bride and groom then moved to the chapel of St. Edward, the confessor, for the singing of the register. This in England constitutes the civil part of the ceremony. No one, of whatever faith, needs a special civil ceremony. After marriage in a church, the register has to be signed and witnessed, and the registrar has to be present at the signing in marriages other than those performed by an Anglican clergyman. Since the Church of England is the established state church, the Anglican clergyman is empowered to witness the singing in place of the registrar. The witnesses returned to their places, and the bridegroom led his bride down the aisle to the west door. As they passed the Queen, the bride made a graceful curtsy, and the groom bowed in homage. Picture 12. The Princess and Mr. Armstrong-Jones leave Westminster Abbey, and then they walk down the long nave and out in the sunshine and the cheering crowds. Picture 13. The royal family after the religious service. The Queen and the royal guests then left the Abbey. Picture 14. The Queen's procession left for Buckingham Palace, and the Queen's procession drove back to the palace. Viewmaster Reel 3. Picture 15. The procession of the newlyweds of Parliament Square. Picture 16. The glass coach reaches Horse Guards Parade. Picture 17. Arrival at Buckingham Palace under loud cheers. The greatest enthusiasm was shown as Princess Margaret and her husband drove in the glass coach past the church of St. Margaret, the parish church of the House of Commons, into Parliament Square and across the Horse Guards Parade back to Buckingham Palace. Princess Margaret is petite and vivacious, with a beautiful complexion and striking blue eyes. She sings well and likes to accompany herself at the piano, but she also loves outdoor life and rides and swims well. With the birth of Prince Andrew, she ranks fourth in succession to the throne, after the Prince of Wales and Princess Anne, and before the Duke of Gloucester. Since she came of age in 1951, she has several times been one of the 5 councillors of state who act for the sovereign when she is absent from the kingdom. Mr. Anthony Armstrong-Jones was born on March the 7th, 1930, and was educated at St. Royd Preparatory School and Eton, where he found his bent in the engineering school. There was a rule which prohibited radio and television sets, but allowed a boy to keep anything he had made himself, so when he managed to produce a very efficient radiogram, he had to be allowed to keep it. He went on to Jesus College, Cambridge, where he coaxed the Cambridge 8 to victory at the Oxford and Cambridge boat race in 1950. He studied architecture, but later chose photography as his profession and worked with Baron, the famous court photographer. After 6 months, he went into partnership on his own with Mr. David Sim. His first royal commission was to take the official photographs for the Duke of Kent's 21st birthday. After that, he took other royal photographs, including many lovely ones of his future bride. He has also published a book of photographs of London and another on Malta in collaboration with Mr. Sacheverell Sitwell. Picture 18. The crowds acclaimed the royal family on palace balcony. The cheering continued all the way back to the palace, and when the bride and groom appeared on the balcony, the people burst past the restraining policemen and crowded right up to the railings to get a better view. The bridesmaids and the royal family then came out on the balcony, and all were given a tremendous ovation. Picture 19. The official wedding portrait. The wedding picture taken inside Buckingham Palace is composed of the following: the bride and groom, Dr. Roger Gilliatt, the bridesmaids, Lady Angela Neville, Princess Anne, Lady Virginia Fitzroy, Catherine Vesey, Marilyn Wills, Lady Rose Neville, Annabel Rhodes, and Sarah Lowther. Picture 20. The couple board the royal barge. London's last view was of the princess in a sunny yellow dress and coat as she drove slowly in an open car with her husband down to the docks and the royal bark which took them out to Britannia and their honeymoon. Picture 21. Down the Thames, bound for the high seas. The royal yacht was put at their disposal by the Queen and had been floodlit the previous night as she lay in the Thames just upstream of Tower Bridge. Her tonnage is 5,769 gross. She is 413 feet in length and cruises at a speed of 21 knots. Her commander is the Flag Officer Royal Yacht, Vice Admiral Peter Dorney, CB MVO DSC, and she has a crew of 20 officers and 237 ratings, drawn for each commission from the Royal Navy. In times of emergency, she can be quickly converted into a hospital ship. We want to add new videos every day, so please subscribe to our channel.
And if you had fun, thumbs up.